New York Times is a really interesting article about how corporations are secretly giving money. Now, the reason that it is allowed to be secret, it shouldn't be, but it is that they're giving it to nonprofits. Now, I say it shouldn't be because nonprofits are supposed to be social welfare groups and charity groups. And yes, you can give to them and they don't have to disclose your identity because maybe you want to protect, your name. You're modest and you want to help the poor or the needy, etc., and you don't want your name out there. Well, okay, that makes sense. But these are not, in reality, social welfare groups. Of course, what they are front groups intended to give millions of dollars, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars to Republicans so that they could win elections and help multinational corporations. That's why it shouldn't be allowed, but this abuse has run rampant in our system. So, in fact, most of the money in the 2010 election actually went to these nonprofit groups that are political but pretending not to be. They outspent the super PACs. You know how you always hear about the super PACs? Well, they outspent them 3-2 in 2010. So they have even more money than the outrageous super PACs buying our elections. And they're even tax exempt. Well, in this election cycle, 2/3 of the money has come from tax exempt so-called social welfare groups like Karl Rove's group, Laugh Along With Me, rather than the super PACs, which is already obviously buying the elections. So, what do companies do in this regard? What are they looking for and how do they do it? Well, let me show you a list of companies that are giving to, for example, the Chamber of Commerce, which has funneled a lot of money to the Republican Party. So, for example, Prudential Financial, $1.6 million, same with Dow Chemical. And this is just a snippet. It's just what we have been able to deduce from other filings that are public. Most of the money is hidden. This is just the money that the New York Times found out there. So you saw Chevron, MetLife, Merck all giving $500,000 to the Chamber of Commerce. Now, is the Chamber of Commerce going to help the poor and the needy? That's not social welfare. That's pretty good. No, of course, they're here to help multinational corporations, and that's their whole point. They admit that's their point. Now, what they don't admit is that they're horribly partisan. The great and overwhelming majority of their money has gone to Republicans to make sure that those corporate interests get served by deregulation so they can pollute into your environment and you pay the cost when your kid gets sick and they don't pay the cost. That's why they buy politicians, and the Republicans are a wholly owned subsidiary of these multinational corporations. So the U.S. Chamber of Commerce in 2010 spent $33 million almost exclusively on Republicans. And well, in 2012, don't worry, they want to up the ante. They want to spend $50 million, again, almost exclusively to Republicans. What part of this is nonpartisan? I'm not sure. What part of this is a social welfare group? It's not that I'm not sure. I'm sure. That's a joke. And it's, of course, to hide the money that corporations use to buy our politicians. Now, who does it? Well, again, these are just snippets. It happens on a rampant scale, most of which we can't find out, but New York Times doing good reporting here. American Electric Power, for example, has given $1 million to the Founding Fund. Now, who's the Founding Fund? Well, they just happen to be run by a former, you look at that, top lobbyist for Koch Industries. Interesting. And American Electric Power just happens to agree with Koch Industries that they should get all the subsidies, they should get all the breaks, they should get all the deregulation. And golly gee, they happen to give a fund to a guy who used to be a lobbyist for Koch Industries to spend on general social welfare. What are they actually spending on? Political attack ads. Of course. All right, that's them. How about this? This is interesting. Now, it's a small amount. It's a company called Express Scripts, and they're giving $10,000 contribution to Minnesotans for a fair redistricting. So why bother including that small amount in this story? Because it's very telling. This company, which is a drug benefit manager, now why would they care about redistricting in Minnesota? They're not even from Minnesota. They claim they have a plant there, but that's not where their headquarters is. It's because they need to redistrict Minnesota so that more Republicans get elected, because Republicans will do whatever the hell they want them to do. You give them a bribe and the Republicans will do it. Democrats will do it most of the time, but sometimes they can't be relied on. So here's a company who, for the social welfare, is doing political redistricting of districts to make sure that as many Republicans as possible can win. Which part of this is not political? This is a joke. Well, then we come to Aetna. This is my favorite one. Aetna's CEO publicly said during the healthcare fight, oh, I'm with President Obama. I think we need healthcare reform, and I am glad that he's taking that on. Oh, great, fantastic. Oh, oops, we found out accidentally where they're actually giving their money when it comes to politics. $3 million to the American Action Network, which is a right-wing group that gives produces political attack ads, and in essence gives money to the Republicans through all those ads that the Republican Party doesn't have to run because the American Action Network ran it for them. And what do they run it on? Anti-healthcare ads. Of course! Why do you think they want to hide it? Because they don't want you to find out what they're doing. Publicly, they smile. They're like, oh, yes, of course, we'd love to help Americans with their health care and get more coverage and do reform. Now, here's $3 million. Go kill it, destroy it, okay? I'm doing social welfare. But they're not done. Aetna also gave $4.5 million to the Chamber of Commerce, which also ran tens of millions of dollars of ads to make sure that health care reform was destroyed and never implemented. Okay, that's why they keep it secret, because what they're doing is horrible and against the interests of the American people, but they're multinational corporations and don't give a damn about you. If they can make an extra cent, well, they'll bury you in political ads for the Republicans that they have bought and purchased. Now, my favorite last part of this is one, Aetna had at once put this as lobbying expenses. When they realized, oh, that doesn't look good. God, it looks like we're lobbying against all these proposals we claim to be in favor of. They changed it in their filings and called them, quote, educational activities. Oh, why, thank you. I really appreciate the education. Very, very kind of you. In other words, reprogramming, brainwashing, do whatever we have to do. Obviously, that party and a lot of the Democrats are not on your side. But if we re-educate you, you might be tricked into believing that these politicians that we have bought are actually on your side rather than our side after we gave them $7.5 million to do our bidding. And that's just the tip of the iceberg because Aetna accidentally filed those papers in the wrong place. In reality, of course, there are hundreds of millions of dollars being spent by all these corporations to wholesale by the government. Are we clear yet on what's happening in the country?